Hey guys, welcome back to JP Podcast, episode 20. Brian Batch, co-owner, let me make sure I say it right, Bird Bird Biscuit.
And you nailed it.
And we were having some conversations before. I'm excited. There's actually, and I don't know if Shane shared this with you, but I've always wanted to start like a coffee/wine business.
Sure.
Called Beans and Berries.
Cool.
And so one of the things was doing a series on like the top 10. We want to do a series on like the top 10 restaurants, top 10 coffee shops, top 10 of X in the food business to start building some relationships and learn. And you are our first restaurant owner that we've had on, man.
Woo! Come on.
So we're going to have a good time today. And Brian, thanks for being on.
Oh, yeah. I'm super excited about it,
So tell us kind of, I know you started in the coffee business and then transitioned into the restaurant. Kind of just catch us up, like, who are you? How'd you get into coffee? How'd you get into the restaurant?
Yeah, so it's a big question, but I'll sum it up in the cleanest, kind of nicest package that I can. So I started off working at a cafe called Thunderbird Coffee, and that's where I met my now business partner. I worked for him for a decade, and what I really think is, if I can give a seed of Bird Bird, is relationships. I wouldn't be doing Bird Bird Biscuit right now if I had not found in my current business partner someone who I completely trust, someone who I had built over time a consistent rapport with, and someone who I knew and I know has my best interest at heart. Because I didn't go into this wanting to be an entrepreneur. That was never my intention. It was never my goal. But at Thunderbird, over the course of that 10 years, one of the things that happened is my business partner, his wife was going through a real struggle with cancer. It wound up being like her last season in her struggle with cancer. And there was a season where he pretty much had to leave and turn his business over to me because he had to be with her. And in that season, when he gave me that responsibility, that was when he and I really built a very strong bond, because I think he saw in me someone who he didn't know necessarily he could trust, but he put his trust in me, and I proved myself to be true in that. And so out of that, once we stopped doing Thunderbird, he came to me and was like, I think we should go into business together. And I was like, dude, I'd love to, And so we,
Wow.
came up with Bird Bird.
So he was going through a moment of losing his wife.
Yeah.
And you stepped up in that season of this man's life. That's probably the hardest moment of his life.
He gave me the opportunity,
which is awesome.
Build that relationship, yeah.
To give somebody that kind of trust, out of sometimes necessity, and also like, who do you do that with?
Sure.
But then also for you to take on that ownership. What was the difference in that moment where you went from just, hey, were you managing the store already?
At that season of time, I just kind of started managing his shops.
Okay. So you started where? Just being a barista?
Yeah, just
right?
a barista.
Okay. All right. So you make some good coffee, I assume.
Man, I'm not gonna brag on myself, but I've put a lot of thought into coffee.
Okay. All right. I love it.
Yeah, man.
You say that like with deep eyes, like.
Dude, I've thought you can learn. That's a whole. We could go down that rabbit hole, dude. I've learned so much about life making coffee.
Okay, we're gonna have to talk about that. Now I'm curious.
So much.
Okay, so you're a barista. You move into management.
Yeah.
And then this moment happens. What happened at that moment for you to go from just being a manager to now like, dude, I'm kind of running this company. This guy needs me to come through. What was that transition like for you?
In retrospect, in the moment, I in my heart, I'm sure I was just thinking, I just need to keep this thing going. Like, I just need to not make a mistake and mess this up, because this is my responsibility, and this is also his livelihood. So let's just do your best. In retrospect, one of the things I can say that's very interesting is the dynamic shifted a little bit with how my relationships with the people that I worked with was, because I realized in a different way that I always had a responsibility to Ryan to make sure that his business ran well, but I took even that much more responsibility to make sure that everyone in that place was working with the same purpose of accomplishing the success of the business. And I took ownership of that. And I think up until that moment, I hadn't taken ownership of Thunderbird. I was someone who worked at Thunderbird, but when he left, it was a different feeling of, no, this is actually, like, it's not mine, but it's mine.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a big part. It's hard to find people like that would take that kind of ownership. So you're there. This season goes on. How long were you there after that?
About 5 years. So I think I started managing Thunderbird about 5 years in, and then I stayed for another 5 years managing Thunderbird. And the season of time where my business partner and his, that situation was going on was probably about a year and a half.
Okay. Yeah. And then Thunderbird ends up, you guys close down the business. Mm-hmm. And if it's personal, then don't share it. But the reason that a coffee shop closes down, like, what's the reason? It's
a great question, and I think knowing that you want to go into coffee, I'll give you, but also wine. So that's you have the other side of it.
Okay.
Here's the thing about coffee, and this is what Ryan saw earlier than I saw it. Coffee is one of those things where the reason why someone comes to a coffee shop is not focused on the product that you serve. People come there for a wide variety of reasons, and because of that, there's not really a concentrated attention and focus around the product. It's a commodity. People come there for office work. People come to the cafe to sit and have business meetings. People come there for all different reasons, and it just so happens that you serve coffee. So the model itself is a tough model to do well at. And Ryan, he never wanted to replicate Thunderbird for that reason, because he saw the inherent flaws in the model, and so he never wanted to grow that business. And because he never wanted to grow the business, it was a little bit doomed at that point, because as a business owner, you have to perpetually put energy into what you're doing, because things change. You have to change. You have to adapt. You have to give life to it. Otherwise, it's going to die. And as much as I loved it and wanted to give life to it, without Ryan, the owner of the business, wanting to see that business also grow in that way, it was tough.
And so at one point, did you think about maybe buying it from him or trying to take it over, or no, you never thought about that?
I never thought about it. I was happy, to be 100% honest, I would have been happy just working there for however long. I loved the job, so the thought never crossed my mind to be a business owner or to buy it.
What did you love about the job?
So it's a couple things. So it's very rare that you have the opportunity to create something with your own hands, give it to someone, and watch them enjoy it. Not too many businesses like facilitate that. But in the cafe, you get to meet this person, you get to know them, you get to make their product and put your heart into it, and then you can kind of watch them and see how they respond to what you do. And there's this certain fulfillment that comes when you get to experience someone else's joy and you had a part of that.
Okay. So you became a barista just because it was a job for you at that moment, or you were passionate about coffee? At that moment,
a job.
Okay. So now you get into it and you start learning about coffee, and it becomes a passion.
It becomes a passion.
And what about coffee interested you? Like the process of how it's made, how it's grown? Is it the brew? Like, what about it?
So the way my brain works, and this is, you asked me earlier if I'm a chef, and I don't consider myself a chef, but I've analyzed my mind and how my mind works. And what I've learned about my mind is that I like to do things over and over and over and over, but make very small adjustments and tweaks to see what that yields in the outcome, to make the outcome as best as I can. And with coffee, you have in a very compact recipe the opportunity to do that again and again and again. And so making espresso, all you do is analyze small changes, make adjustments, and see what that yields on the backside. But the powerful thing about it, though, is if you see it right, it has nothing to do with coffee. It has nothing to do with what you're doing. It has to do with training your mind how to think. And that's what I loved about the process of making coffee and it's the same thing with biscuits. Like I've treated biscuits the exact same way. If you see it right and you understand what it is, it's a mind thing. Like you're sharpening your brain, you're learning how to concentrate, you're learning how to focus, you're learning how to think. Most people don't really know how to think,
Yeah, I get you. So were you always like that?
I don't know.
Or were you like that before coffee?
I don't know.
Got it. So coffee is when you became aware of it.
Yeah. I mean, the coffee is probably when I became aware of it, because honestly, I don't know.
Okay. All right. And then, so you're there. You guys go through that process. You shut down the business. Was it a cafe model where people came in to sit down, or was it okay?
Yeah.
So then, what happened after you shut down the business? What did you go do before you guys opened?
Well, there were two of them. So we shut down one of the Thunderbirds, and then the other one stayed open for a little bit. And I was a part of the transition team with that one staying open while we were also creating Bird Bird Biscuit.
Did you guys just shut down completely, or did you sell to another coffee shop business?
So he just shut it down because he actually owns the properties as well.
Oh,
so
got it.
So he's the owner of the properties. And so I think in his mind, he was seeing a little further out than I was, because what wound up happening is one of those locations became a Bird Bird Biscuit.
Oh, got it.
And I think he was looking further ahead than I was. So he didn't sell it because I think in his mind he kind of anticipated that we might do this shuffle.
Okay, so you guys closed down one. You're managing the other one. Was it seamless where like Bird Bird Biscuit started while the other one was still open, or did they both close before you started Bird Bird Biscuit?
It was, somewhat seamless. Like one of them was open for a while. Bird Bird opened. I kind of transitioned out of Thunderbird, started doing Bird Bird, and then that Thunderbird lasted for another year or two. But after COVID, man, it was hard to come back from that.
So when you guys started Bird Bird Biscuit, why did you start that business? Was it you and Ryan having a conversation? Like, what's inspired you to do that?
Totally. So it kind of goes back to when I was talking about the flaws that he saw in the coffee shop business model. It kind of starts there, because what I saw and what Ryan saw was at the cafe, it was about the people. And man, we had amazing people come through that place. Some of the best relationships and best people I've ever met came through that coffee shop just because of what it is, the environment. It's fulfilling, and that's why people go there. But because he didn't want to grow that business, they would come and they would go. They would come and they would go. And I got to the point where I really wanted to build something where I could start to grow roots and have a foundation with these great people, because there was opportunity for them. So Ryan and I talked about it, and the foundation of Bird Bird was like, let's start a business that the model itself is conducive to growth, so we can grow with the people that we're growing with. And people don't have to come and go. If somebody's awesome and they want to come and they want to stay and they want to have a career, they can have a career, because we can provide that opportunity. But we couldn't do that at the coffee shop.
Okay, I got it. So the people that you're like, man, some of the best people, you're talking about the workers.
Yeah, absolutely.
The people you're working with.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. So you wanted to find something like, dude, I want a community, and I want to see these guys like become my family, grow with us.
Absolutely.
I love that.
Absolutely.
So you weren't even trying, it wasn't from a financial reason.
No.
It wasn't because you were necessarily passionate about food.
No.
It was more because you wanted to like offer an opportunity to people to grow.
Yeah, and I wanted to build an environment where I could be a part of creating something that would be a place where I would want to exist.
I love that, bro.
Because it's about the people, man. Like it's about the people.
You wanted to be a part of something, building an environment where you would want to be a part of it.
100%. Because I don't have any interest at this stage of my life in separating and differentiating segments of myself, because it doesn't work, and I don't think that that's the way that you succeed.
So you seem like you're very self-aware. Is that something that you've sought in your life, or is it just something that you reflect on? Like,
I'll tell you this because it's just the truth. Before I came here, I knew what I was going to do for the period of time before I got here, because I knew how important it was that every word that comes out of my mouth comes from the place where I want it to. And so I spent the period of time before this sitting and meditating and centering myself. And meditation has been the best practice that I've ever implemented in my personal life for balance and for being able to speak from a place of confidence with who I am. And so, absolutely, I've been seeking that out for a while now in my life, and it's the most important aspect, I'll say, of what I've done.
What drove you initially? I like to understand people. Like,
Sure.
What drove you initially to want to go study meditation or meditate?
So I'll say I think it probably started with experiencing my mom's death when I was a little young.
How old were you?
So I was 18 And my mom had multiple sclerosis, and my mom passed away. My childhood's a whole different story, but that experience, and Shane and I talked about it a little bit, when you look at death and you see it and it's there face to face and you feel that feeling of loss, there's a certain thing that happens where you ask questions. It's just natural. And out of that process of asking questions, it'll take you on a journey, you know. That's what started it for me. Is it took me on a journey, because you lose your mom and you start to think about just life in a different way. You start to think about death in a different way. And I don't think about death in a morbid way. I just want to live my life in such a way. I'm living my life so that in that moment, I feel good about it.
Yeah. I love that. So you're at this place in life. You're like, I don't want to separate what I do professionally from what I do here. I just want to build a community. And you're starting to talk to Ryan. You built trust with him, and it's like, hey, I want to build something. Was it I want to build something with you, or he was like, hey, I want to build something and I want you to be a part of it?
Yeah, he asked me if I would be a part of it. He was like, I'd love to start a business and I'd love to do it with you. And I was like, man, if I was going to start a business, you're the only person I'd start a business with right now. So like, let's do it. You know, it's true.
I love that, dude.
Yeah.
The evolution of the relationship and how it turned into a great partnership. That's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Okay, so you guys, so why did you pick Bird Bird Biscuit? Like, why did you pick that model? Why'd you pick that restaurant? Was that more of Ryan? What's that there?
It's such a, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to try to be as concise as I can, but the story is an interesting one, and I'll package it as well as I can. So we just traveled for about 5 to 6 months, not consistently all the time, but we would take 3 or 4 days here, 3 or 4 days there, and we would just go to different cities. We went to LA, went to New York, went to Nashville, went to Denver, went to Philly, and we just saw every concept you could possibly imagine, from donut shops to chicken places to coffee shops to juice bars. And the question we were trying to figure out is, what is it that motivates people and resonates with people that causes this synergy where you have people lining up outside the building, and what's exciting people about that?
What a great question.
That was our question, because our whole thing was like, we don't want to just open a business. We want to open because we wanted to grow a business, and to do that we had to have a model that was compelling. And so when we went and we traveled, that's what we were trying to understand, like, what makes a business model compelling so that we can bring something back to Austin and hopefully offer something to the city that's unique, because that in our minds was going to be part of the key to its success. Was coffee was everywhere.
Yeah.
We didn't want something that was everywhere. We wanted something that when you go to Bird Bird Biscuit, if you want Bird Bird Biscuit, you got to go to Bird Bird Biscuit. And that was the goal. So in that process, we got all the information. We saw what was resonating. We took it back here to Austin, and then we just started distilling it through this question. How can we make our business model as simple as possible?
Before you go there to simple, what did you find when you did that research, when you did that experiment? So
we found a couple things. We found one that people really resonated with sandwiches. Like, that was just a thing that we saw had a lot of energy around it. We saw that there was a lot of energy around breakfast and lunch. We saw that was just a time when they got excited to get up and go to a place and scope it out. We also did see that the biscuit was an aspect of it that we saw. There were a few places that did that component really well, the biscuit breakfast sandwich. And so that was on our radar. And then the chicken was also on our radar. There's this place called Howlin' Ray's out in LA. You may or may not know it, but it's a really popular chicken sandwich shop. And what makes it so good is the gentleman who opened it is just a connoisseur of creating a vibe. Like, when you go there, you are invited and welcomed into an entire experience. I mean, he's there on the mic.
What's it called?
Howlin' Ray's.
How? H-A-L?
Howlin', like howlin' hot, like Howlin', Howlin' Ray's. Dude, he's on the mic. He's like hyping it up. They've got the boombox going. The music's jamming. People are tossing. It's just a whole thing. And so from that, we realized that, yeah, you can have a good product, but if you can combine a great product with a great experience, then you're really onto something. You know, you got to make something that people want to talk about, that people want to tell people about. And so that's what we learned.
That's awesome. Have you ever read Contagious?
I haven't.
Okay, I'm going to send you that book.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just a concept of that, but he talked about experience and product. So, so you guys learned that, and you come back. So were you clear already? Like, hey, we're going to open up a chicken biscuit restaurant. Did you?
Not at all. When
Okay.
we came back, we had a couple different ideas. One of them, because we also saw some really, because I was a coffee guy. You got to remember, I came from the field of coffee, and so my whole experience up to this point was making coffee. So we also saw a lot of like coffee juice bars, and there were some really great concepts that were in that regard too. And so at first, what we were going to do is open a coffee and juice bar, because I was going to utilize my knowledge with coffee and combine that with this other element and just try to make something really unique and great. We had the name, we had the menu, we had everything almost ready to go. And then the craziest thing happened. It was going to be called Batch Coffee and Juice Bar. That was going to be the name of it. And then about a month and a half before we announced to the public that that was going to be the concept, there was a kolache place about half a mile from our location that opened that was called Batch Kolaches. And so when they opened, Ryan and I were like, well, well, crap, man. Like that's actually my last name,
I
you
know.
know? And so
You're like, you can't do that.
Yeah. So we were just looking at each other like, well, that's not going to work. Like we can't. And
Dude,
so we
this
scrapped.
is a month before.
Yeah, bro. So we scrapped the whole idea. We scrapped the whole thing and went back to the drawing board. And by going back to the drawing board, we decided that we were going to do a sandwich shop, and then we distilled that through simplicity, and then it became a biscuit sandwich shop, you know, and then it became Bird Bird Biscuit, which is wild because had that one thing not happened, there would be no Bird Bird Biscuit.
Wow. That's crazy. So what a great story.
Yeah, that one thing, man, is wild.
You know, you talked about like how accidents, right, can create some great opportunities.
Yeah, man.
So simplicity. Break that down. When you say we wanted it to be simple, what does that mean?
Yeah, so for multiple reasons. So you have two dynamics that are at work here. You have one which is the guest experience, and you have one which is execution.
Okay.
So both of those things come to a beautiful synergy when you can keep things simple. Because when someone comes to your business, they like, this is my opinion. I'm giving you my opinion. When I go to a place, I like to feel as if what I'm presented has been curated through someone's deep thought. And I think when you can make something simple for people, it carries with it that feeling of they're only offering this because they've thought about this. Like, this is what they want to show me. There's not 100 options. So each one of these has probably been given some thought. There's that side of it. And then from the other side of it, if you want to deliver consistently on that experience, simplicity. Because when you're doing a lot of something, if you're doing a lot of something that's concise, you're way more likely to execute it at a high degree of efficiency. And that's what we wanted to do. It's one of our values actually, is consistent quality above all. And we find that by focusing on that, all the other stuff comes. I'd love to tell you about our 4 values at some point because
I wanted to ask you about it right now. So yeah, please.
Yeah, dude, they work
above all.
They work really beautifully together. Like we have 4 of them. So one of them is people, not objects, and that one is all about how we treat one another, how we see one another, and making sure that our intention is to serve each other. That's the whole thing. The second one is this is fun for us, because a place that's not enjoyable to be, there's poison in the well. People aren't going to want to stay if they don't enjoy what they do in the atmosphere. The third one is consistent quality above all. And that was what we just talked about. And all of that leads into this 4th value, which to me is like the X factor. We want to blow people's minds, because that's...
Is that what it is? Blow
minds is the 4th one.
Okay.
And it's...
I love those.
All of them have 2 angles. It's not just about the guest experience. It's also about the way that the team interacts with one another. But at the end goal, if we're approaching it in a way to where we're thinking about how we can make someone else's experience a level up from anywhere else where they could go. And you have to look for that. Like, and that's what I love about that 4th value, blowing minds, is because it's elusive. Like, you have to always be on the hunt for the opportunity, because it doesn't always just show itself. And it puts you in the position to where you have to strive. You have to strive to go after it, and it makes it fun, you know. And so it's a nuanced one, and that's the one in the business that's hard to teach people. But if you can help somebody see how to do that, then you're looking for the opportunity in people's experiences to enhance that. And man, you can make some magic happen, man.
Do you have any stories around that?
Dude, tons of them. Can
you share like one or two?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I'll just give you an example. So there was one time where, and this is like, I'll give you a simpler example. We close at 2:00. The business for the most part, we have a couple PMs, but we close at 2:00. This was a couple days ago.
So what time you open at? What time?
7:30.
7:30 to 2 p.m.
Yeah, and then we're dabbling in the night shift, but for the most part, that's when we're open right now.
Okay.
And there were these guests that came a little bit after we closed, right? And they came up, and everything was getting shut down, and we didn't have the ordering thing out there, and they couldn't do that. And so in that situation, it's very easy to just be like, hey, come back tomorrow. You know, like we don't have anything. But the value of blowing minds is like, okay, this person came all the way here for something. Like, what can we give this person? And not only what can we give this person, but can we give this person something that's going to be memorable and is going to let them go back and like just want to share it with people. And so in that situation, we kind of go back in. We're like, hey, listen, like what can we do? These people came all the way here. Do we have anything we can make for them? You find whether it's not the biscuits that were not old because you want to serve somebody something great, but you get them a biscuit, you get them some jam, you go out there, you talk to them, you ask them where they're from, you give it to them on the house, you know what I mean? You take the time to connect with them. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It's just about that little bit of extra effort so somebody leaves saying, that person thought about me.
Yeah. That's I love it. I got another book I'm gonna send to you. It's called Unreasonable Hospitality.
Send it over, man.
Yeah, this guy built a world's greatest restaurant, 3-star Michelin.
Yeah.
I think is it 3-star? Yeah. Number 1 restaurant in the world.
Yeah.
On hospitality.
Yeah.
And it was all about that topic that you just said.
It's important.
There's I find like common denominators of like what makes something great, and that going above and beyond, that blow minds. I love it. I remember I was at the supermarket here. I won't mention names, and I'm going to get some stuff, some cheese and ham and whatnot. And it's like $7.50. You know, they close at 8, and she's putting everything away. And I didn't know they closed at $7.50. We're just going grocery shopping.
Sure.
And she's like, "Yeah, we're closed." And then she starts slamming things around. I'm like, "Well, miss, you guys, it's still open. Could you please, help us?" And she did it with like the worst attitude in the world, and it made such a negative impact that it's on this, on this podcast, right? If she would have done the opposite, and it's convenient, it's a grocery store, I get it, but in the restaurant world, like, there's so many different restaurants to go. Like, what makes somebody want to go back? To that, and I think as things get big, we lose that human touch, that human element.
Absolutely.
And I love the fact that your values are not like they're unique in terms of, it's not like integrity, hard work, like blow minds, this is fun for us. Like, they're real values that you can live out.
And like, I've seen that they'll speak to you at different times, different things, in different situations. If you engage with them, they'll talk back at you.
Give me an example.
So one of the things that is a difficulty at Bird Bird is because our model now is all at the window and we don't really have people coming in. With DoorDash and Uber Eats and Grubhub, those drivers, they usually didn't order the food, don't necessarily care about the experience. They just want to get in and they want to get out. So sometimes the attitudes that they approach you with can be rough, especially when it's busy. They'll just come up, phone in your face, not look at you, and the value of blowing minds, it's about how we exist as beings. Because when you ask yourself, if somebody mistreats you and you genuinely ask yourself the question, man, this person is really treating me wrong, but how can I blow this person's mind? I love asking that value in that moment, because what it does is it puts you in a mindset of asking how you can serve someone. And I've seen how powerful it is because it's difficult to mistreat someone that you genuinely want to serve.
That's powerful. It's difficult to mistreat someone
that
you genuinely want
to serve.
And what if you don't want to genuinely serve?
And that's a great question, right? And so that comes down to what is the value doing in you?
Say that again?
Like, what is the value doing in you?
Okay.
Because that's why I love that value, because to execute that value, there's something
that's deep. I get it.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like,
it makes you analyze yourself, to change yourself, to work on yourself. It ultimately makes you a better person.
100%. And when people start to see and understand and experience that, they come into like the power of what is actually trying. Man, I'm sorry, dude. Like,
it's all good, bro. You're so passionate about the values.
It's not just about the values, man. Like, I want this place. I want Bird Bird. It's not that I want it. It's what it is. It's an opportunity for people to practice what it looks like to not just be in community, but to understand how to treat each other. Like this world, look at it. I don't have to tell you.
Yeah.
Look at it. It's busted. It's broken. And Bird Bird is my opportunity to build a place that can counteract that. As small as it may seem, that's what I'm doing.
We've had a lot of podcasts. This has been one of the most impactful. I appreciate you being present and sharing.
Man, I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, that's
happy
awesome.
to be here.
That's awesome, bro. How do you guys teach your guys to do that when somebody's like, "Hey, here's the order"? Like, how do you blow minds in that moment? Like,
it starts with how we connect with one another in the other moments.
Okay.
You know, because in that moment you have to be prepared, and if you haven't prepared yourself for that moment, well then, there you are. But the other values help support this dynamic within the business, and I love Bird Bird for this. It's everyone in that shop genuinely cares about one another. Like, genuinely cares about one another. And that heart, it makes people come into it wanting to bring their best, wanting to work on themselves, like wanting to put that extra effort in. Whereas a lot of times if you go and you do a job, it's like, oh, I'm just making sandwiches. Oh, I'm just making biscuits. I'm just frying chicken. Some people come for that. Some people only get that out of Bird Bird. But a lot of people have seen the deeper aspect of it.
Do you spend a lot of time with your employees, people that work there?
Spend a lot of time there because that's my mission. Like, if I didn't spend my time there, I wouldn't really be doing my job.
Got it. So your job, the way you look at it, is to be present where your guys are, to do the job of the business. Are you doing the job? Or are you more in the office? Or are you?
Oh yeah, no, man. There's no office at.
Okay.
I'm in the dish pit a lot, you know, but that's where I like to be because that's where I started.
Got it. You're still the barista, just now.
That's where I started.
Some chicken and biscuits.
Yeah, man. Like, that's where I started. You know.
You're an operator.
Yeah. So.
Got it. And so, this is something that I find difficult. While you're like striving and working and doing this, sometimes values are like, it's hard to like be present and like 100%. Be a community and be family when you're like stressed out, this is going wrong, you're tired, whatever, personal 100%. Life. How do you get people to model, and I guess you doing it, but how do you get that culture to be that culture while people are doing, they're busy or they're overworked or it's a fast-paced environment? How do you still create that family dynamic?
You have to for me, it's making the time to really check in with people and having the energy to check in with people. Because the hardest part of my job, of all the things that I do, is the amount of energy it takes to sit with someone and really receive what they're going through and just be present there and give your attention just to that person. Because Bird Bird's not massive, but now we have 45, 50 people working there. And as it grows, to give that attention, it gets harder and harder. But it's so important because people need to know that they're cared about. They need to know that me as an owner, I'm not there as someone who sees them. It's people, not objects. Like, I'm not there seeing them as people who are just working to make me money. I'm there to invest myself in them, to do everything I can to help them succeed. And what does that look like? And it's not just succeeding at Bird Bird, because the fundamental of it is any task you do at Bird Bird is an opportunity to practice the foundational tenets of success that'll help you anywhere. And if you see that and you really understand what that means, it'll change the game for you. And those are the people that I make the extra effort to invest my time in.
So you're very aware of who's, one, you're present with everybody, but you're aware of who's at that next level of commitment.
You can see, and you don't, no judgment. There's no penalty for someone who wants to just come into Bird Bird and make a biscuit and leave. That's totally fine. It's also okay. But you can see the people who, when you share certain things, because my style is, I give a lot of feedback, but I typically will always give feedback very quietly, because it's not about everybody hearing what I'm saying. It's just about that person hearing what I'm saying. And so a lot of times, if I approach someone and just a little aside, I'm just like, I get close to them, just whisper in their ear, this, that, just give them a little bit of feedback. You can feel the people who are receptive to that and the people who are like, just leave me alone. Like, okay, like, you can tell. And I like to find those people who want to receive that and give that to them, and the people who don't, you respect that.
So is that, and have you thought about building that more into your interview process so that you can interview more people that are more receptive to that kind of feedback?
Yeah, break that down.
Okay, so like when you hire somebody, so there's a book called The Ideal Team Player.
Sure.
It's written by a guy named Patrick Lencioni. And he writes books on leadership through stories.
Sure.
And so he gives these examples of people and the different dynamics, and he came down to there's 3 things that make the ideal team player, right?
Okay.
One of them is that they're very smart, but not like technical smart, human smart, emotional intelligence.
Okay.
Right? 2 is that they're extremely like hardworking, like there's a desire there to work hard, right? And he goes through these qualities of what makes the ideal team player.
Sure.
The 3rd one was hungry, that they're just hungry, like they just want more, they want to grow. And then in the back of the book, it formulates different questions that you can ask in interviews to be able to identify, right? Are they hungry, humble, right? Hungry, humble, and smart. That's what it was. Hungry was hardworking. So hungry, are they humble, right? Do they take feedback? Do they want? Are they open to learning?
That's great.
And then the emotional intelligence. So those were his 3 qualities. But the reason I asked that is if you are able to see that, right? I was asking, do you guys interview for that or not? Not
specifically,
so
but that's great.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I mean, you just send it to me. I'd love for you to pass that along to me, because not specifically, but as we grow, one of the things I've realized is the more precise we can get at that stage, the better.
Sure. And how do you do that with 45? We have a team of a bunch of different agents, and they all have brokers, and like there's probably 1,500 active agents in our team. How do you do that with 45 people as you guys keep growing?
And just real quick, what is that? Like
that coaching, that feedback, that being present, that investing, that energy of like, man, I'm going to invest into this person. Like, how do you do that as you guys keep growing?
Well, that's a great question. My approach thus far is the way I structured Bird Bird to start, I was very intentional about not assigning anyone too much power, because I knew that too much power in the wrong hands could be catastrophic. And so the structure of Bird Bird is I have a team of about 5 or 6 people at both stores who kind of lead the store together, and they're kind of all on the same level. And through this process, one of the things that I've been looking for is who has the humility, who has the communication skills to be that next level leader. And right now what I'm looking for, and I found a few people and it's great, my hope is that with the right people who can who can carry that torch, that they can help me be that at Bird Bird. It's, again, it comes down to the people. Like, I've really been looking for those diamond in the rough that I can fully invest myself into, and because they really want that. And luckily now I found a few. So I think one of the things I told Shane too is I won't grow Bird Bird beyond the point of having the people to grow Bird Bird.
That's great. You don't find a lot of business people that are like, I'll sacrifice profits so that for people.
Yeah, but I'll tell you, if I did, it wouldn't be fun.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah.
And that's one of the values. It wouldn't be fun for me.
Was that something that was you and Ryan both shared? Was that more?
He and I both, like, we wanted that one in particular. He knows me. He knows I have a family. He knows that my family is really important to me, and it's important to us both that we enjoy what we do.
That's good. Okay. So you start and so you started it initially. It was going to be like a sit down place, and you said COVID kind of changed that.
Yeah, COVID definitely changed that.
Okay. So you guys, this was before you built the facility then?
No. So we opened in end of 2018, early 2019, and it was a sit down place. You would go inside, you would, stand in line, you'd order your food at the counter. We had a few bar seats and some seating inside and outside. And when COVID happened, it was a very interesting moment, because a lot of businesses thought it was going to be like a week-long thing, like a 2-week thing. And so we almost shut the doors. We almost did like most businesses did, and we're like, let's just close down. Let's just wait 2 weeks, and then we'll open back up.
Yeah.
But one of our employees who's still there, and I love this guy so much. He's still there. He's been there from the beginning. I love this guy. He's been just so great. We had this window that was completely closed off. And he approached me and he was like, I think it might be a good idea if we just kind of popped that window open and made this adjustment and this tweak. And like, what would you think if we did that? Then we could kind of keep selling and we could do it. And I was like,
wow,
you know what? That's a good idea. Let's do it. And so we did it. And not only was COVID not 2 weeks, but it changed our entire business model in such a positive way.
That's crazy.
Like, our business has grown, like, revenue by, I don't know, 200% or something wild, 300%. It's insane. All because it allowed us the opportunity to maximize the efficiency of the inside of the business so that we could sell more.
Wow. And so that simple idea, man, of like that guy, like, hey, dude, why don't we open that window?
And I have to, and the thing is, he's still there. He's still there. And so part of that for me, what makes me so just love it, is he cared about Bird Bird.
Yeah.
He was invested. Like, he came to me with an idea. He was like, hey, this is not my business, but I have this idea,
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's super cool. There's, I think, a book called The Toyota Way, and the way that they structured their floor is that all the CEOs, all the managers, I don't know about CEOs, but all the managers are right next to the employees.
Yeah.
And they're like horizontal leadership versus vertical leadership. And then they said that there's like I don't know what the bonus is, but the bonus was like, you bring an idea, you get a bonus, because they realized that most of the ideas were coming from the bottom up, right? And then I think it was, I don't know if it was 3M. But they would give like 1 hour a week or 2 hours a week for you to just go create ideas, and they paid you to do it.
Yeah.
And it was paid work.
That's awesome.
And your brain would just go like, and then like that's when they come up with the Post-it note.
That's incredible.
Just because people were taking time to think about ideas.
Yeah.
So that's awesome, man. So
one of the things I love about those big corporations is like they can just do that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's great. Like, they have like playgrounds in their cafeteria. You know what I mean? It's great.
Yeah. So, okay. So you guys you come up with the concept, you go on this journey, you come up with what we're going to do. Did you do any kind of market research, or your market research was that, going to those 5 cities?
It was more that.
It was more of that.
Yeah.
So you didn't have there's no proof of concept of, hey, this is going to work.
No. And one of the things Ryan and I literally said to each other is we just said, look, we're going all in. This is going to work or it's not. but this is the concept. This is the idea. It's going to work or it's going to not.
Okay. And then you shared something about earlier with your like sandwiches, and I said, "Are you a chef?" Right?
Yeah.
Because I'm figuring like you own a restaurant, and you're like, "No, I don't consider myself a chef."
Sure.
But so, how did you guys? Ryan's background is not in cooking.
Yeah, he's a business guy.
He's a business
He's a
guy.
great idea guy. He comes up. He's an idea guy.
Okay. And your background is not in cooking.
It's not professionally in cooking. Like I've enjoyed in my time at home cooking.
Okay, so you do cook.
I do cook, but
Okay.
I don't. It's not like I've studied.
But are you passionate about it? Like you're in the kitchen, like, man, I want to make this tonight. Like, is that your deal or
I'm
no?
passionate about everything, man.
I love that.
That's the truth, though. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
Okay, so how'd you guys come up with the menu? Like in terms
Sure.
of coming up with like we're gonna make this and it's gonna taste like this. How did you guys do it?
Sure. So a lot of it was just a start. Well, one, let me give credit where credit's due. So the biscuit, and this is very important, and I always have to give credit to this person because I never want to get to the point to where I don't give credit. We had an amazing start with our biscuit. There was a gentleman that Ryan knew who was a master biscuit maker.
Okay.
And he basically gave us our starting biscuit recipe and shared with me his knowledge on how to make the biscuit. This is going to be a great segue because this leads into something that I want to share with you that really been powerful for me. He showed us how to make the base biscuit. And from that is kind of the foundation that the entire business has been built upon. He also gave us our initial starting recipe for the brine that we used to brine our chicken.
Okay.
And so the two components that are like the heartbeat of what we do, which is the chicken and the biscuit, we had help with. And so I give credit there because, again, dude, collaboration. Like we don't have to do everything by ourselves, and we don't have to feel as if we own every ounce of accolade that comes from. No, when you can let that stuff go and you can be okay,
Powerful.
it's powerful. It's very powerful. So I have to start by giving credit there. And to answer your question, then I would come up with just recipes that sounded good to me. You know, just things that kind of sounded like they go well together because I do like to cook. And we would make a sandwich, and I would first have Ryan try it, and he would give me his feedback, and then we would kind of send it out in stages and waves. We would send it out to a few chefs that I do know who are chefs, and they would send back feedback. We would send it out to the general public, people that are just friends who aren't necessarily cooks but like food, and we would get feedback. And after each round, we would take the feedback, and I would look at it, and I would say, okay, this person thought this. How many people said this? And I would take it and just make little tweaks to the recipe until finally, third, fourth iteration, we would send it out, and most people were like, hey, that's great. And almost every sandwich went through that process.
I love it. And you guys keep it very simple, so there's not the menu's simple.
Very simple.
Got
We
it.
maybe have 7, 8 sandwiches on the menu.
Sometimes when I go to some restaurants, I won't mention names. It's like 20 pages on this menu, and I'm like, I don't even know what I want to eat anymore.
I
'cause
don't
it all
know how
looks so
places
good.
do that. I mean, some places do it very well. I would struggle.
Yeah, I don't know either. We had a place called Jerry's Deli. The menu was like 20 pages. You could eat anything you wanted there. Or Cheesecake Factory. You know, they're
Yeah.
awesome. Great menus. But okay, so then you open one, it starts doing good, right? And you're like, we should do another one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so the time frame to open the second one, was it easier obviously since you now have the recipe? Like
In that regard, absolutely. The first one was rough. Because one, I had never opened a restaurant before. I had no idea what it took. All I knew was it was going to be a lot of work, and it was a lot of work. I was fortunate because my little brother, who was up in Washington, D.C., he was going through some personal stuff up there, and through just some conversations, I asked him, I was like, look, I'm about to start this business. I know you're kind of dealing with some stuff. Do you want to come down and help me do this? And he did. So he came down, he lived in my house for a little bit, and he helped me open Bird Bird. And had it not been for him, I do not think there would have been another human being willing to go through what we went through if it wasn't my brother. Because, I mean, we worked 16, 17-hour days because we had to make the biscuits. So we'd work from we'd get there at 5:36. work until about 2, and then we make biscuits from about 2:33 to about 9 or 10 at night, and then sometimes we would sleep there and just do it again and again for like 3 months.
Wow.
It was terrible.
Okay. Walk me through somebody that's like thinking about starting a restaurant right now. Like, what are like the 2, 3, 4, 5 steps they should do? And I know they can go Google this, but like, from a person that's done it.
From a personal perspective, I would say make sure you're working with someone that you trust. Because if there's not a foundation of trust at the core of your business, it is going to lead to so many haunting and horrible feelings as you progress through, because it takes so much work and so much effort that if you start to get involved in the thoughts of selfishness and the thoughts of like, I'm doing all this, like, why isn't this and if that trust isn't there to really know that that person that you're doing it with is there to support you, it just might be that you have different strengths and that the role that you play is different than the role they play. There can be a lot of jealousies that can poison the heart of the entire thing. So work with someone you trust. Be our first thing.
It's a great tip.
My first, like I've heard this saying and I disagree with it. Some people say that, what's the saying? Like, you got something about how you don't have to be friends with the people that you work with or something like that. And I just don't agree with it. I think you should want to be friends with the people that you work with. You should want to trust the people that you spend that much time with. That's the foundation.
Yeah.
The second thing I'd say is just be flexible and be prepared. Be prepared to work very, very hard. Like I didn't realize how much work it was going to be, but the thing that I knew going into it, because something I didn't tell you is I had no money to open Bird Bird Biscuit. 0. So when Ryan came to me and was like, let's open Bird Bird, he was putting all of the revenue, all of the cash up front to do it. And because of that, there was kind of a weight on me where it was a large chunk of money. Like we went over budget. And so we wound up spending, I don't know, like $600,000 or $700,000 to open that first Bird Bird when we were hoping to spend like $350 or $400. And Ryan zapped most of his savings to do that. And so I was in this place where my job now was to make it work.
This is the second time you've been in that position now with Ryan.
Yeah, this one we didn't see coming, But
yeah.
You know what? I never thought about that.
It's great how God brought you guys together in life, dude.
Dude.
Like, that's awesome.
Dude. Oh, hey, man, glory to God. I'll say that one. Without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. So, I mean, those would be my 2.
So be prepared.
Yeah.
Be prepared to go all in.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. And be flexible, because things change and you got to be okay. You got to be okay with change.
Yeah. I think, you hear all the stories of so many businesses, like the worst business to ever go into is like the restaurant business. Don't go into restaurants, because the percentage of restaurants that make it,
Luckily I didn't know any of that before I did it. Yeah, nobody told me that. So I was down,
You're like, let's do it.
Yeah.
So where are you at this season of your life? Just, hey, I want to make this the best company, the best place for people to work. I want to make great food. Is it, hey, I want to keep growing the company? Is it more of, I just want to refine everything that we're doing to be the best that we can? What drives you?
Yeah, so we're in a stage right now where, like I said, we want to grow the business with the people that we have to grow it with, and we want to do it the right way. I'm not interested in really franchising Bird Bird. People have asked. I'm not interested in selling Bird Bird because, like I said to Shane, it's kind of my symphony right now. It's something that I want to leave behind in the world. It's more than it's not. You can't buy it from me at this stage. Like there's no person could offer me enough money to sell that business, and I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart because it's not that for me. And so we want to continue to grow it the right way and refine it because there's so much opportunity to continue to do the same thing. We've been doing this almost 6 years now, and we've never stopped making it better. It's never stopped getting better. And so what I've seen is there's so much opportunity in what we're already doing to make it a little bit better. That's what I want to focus on, because that's what I've seen has been the heartbeat of the success, is not trying to just grow it, but just taking the little things, taking the sweet tea and looking at it and seeing, is there a way to make this better? Like taking, the queen beak, which is one of our sandwiches, and just figuring out, like, is there a way that we can make this better? And just making little things better. And that's where I'm at with it right now. I want to do this next location, and then I want to look at it as a painting, and I just kind of want to see, you know what I mean? I want to see where I want to just make little adjustments and just refine it. And that's kind of where I'm at.
And do you go between the different stores?
Yeah.
So is it like you break down half here, half there? Is that how you do it? Or
kind of just bounce back and forth. I go where I kind of feel I'm supposed to go and where I'm needed. Sometimes one store needs me more than another. Sometimes I'll get caught up at one store and I'll intend to go to the other one, but we get a pop or a rush, and I wind up working there for a little bit. But I like to be in the stores because, again, my job is really to shepherd the energy and the relationships. And sometimes people won't tell you things that are happening. They won't necessarily bring it to your attention. People have a tendency to let things fester. And so I like being in the shops because I get to experience the real-time heartbeat of the business. And if things are off, I can usually sense it and address it.
And for people that are business partners, one of the things you talked about, make sure you trust that person. The functionality, what role do you play? What role does Ryan play? And how do you guys play together?
Yeah, sure. So I'm more of the kind of boots on the ground execution person. And my role, I'm the kind of the creative one who, I'll put it like this. Ryan's the coach. He has this playbook, and he's drafted this playbook, and he hands it to me, and he's like, hey, take this playbook, put it into motion, refine it, execute it, let's win the game.
Got it. Okay, so you guys have different strengths.
Yeah. And because I love him so much, I honor that the strengths that we have are not needed to be scaled.
What do you mean?
I don't have to measure my strengths versus his strengths. It's enough to know that he has his strengths, I have mine, and we're doing this together. Because again, where I think it's dangerous is when you begin to start to look too granular at, well, what do I bring to the table? We're like, well, what does this person bring to the table? And when you kind of start to look at that, then your ego can get involved, and you can start to get in your head, and you can start to be like, well, I'm bringing all this to the table, and this guy's only bringing this to the. And once that starts to happen, it's dangerous.
So you both are conscious of that? You're both aware of it, or is it? And you guys talk about that? Or
you'd have to ask him about that. I'm very aware of it.
Okay.
Because as someone who, I'm passionate about what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do, and so I work very hard. I spend a lot of my time there, and so I'm very aware of it because of how much time and energy I put in, and my own personal journey. Because here's the deal. This is my opportunity. I've realized that I've been given everything in this lifetime. I've been given everything in this lifetime. I've been here before. I've done this before. But in this lifetime, I've been given everything. I found my path. I found my wife. I've got my family. I've got my business partner. The only thing that's going to mess me up is my ego. So I'm watchful of it.
Yeah, that's powerful. When you say I've been getting everything in this lifetime, is that more of a Buddhist philosophy, or?
I mean, we could break down Buddhist philosophy or just spiritual philosophy. You know,
but your belief in what you just said in terms of like lifetime. So you feel like your spirits lived before. Or is that what you meant by that?
I don't see how it couldn't. You know, when I think about this journey we're on, and I heard somebody say this, and it just made sense to me. And certain things, when you hear them, what I've learned to pay attention to is, what does it feel like in my heart? Like, what does it feel like deep inside of me? And does it resonate with me? And when things resonate with me, I pay attention to them. Somebody said this, and they said, you know, this universe that we exist in, it's called that because it's a university, and you continue to grow in your education here until you graduate. Just like anything that you do, you learn the lessons. If you don't learn the lesson, you got to go back and repeat the grade until you learn the lesson. And I think this life is the same way. I think you learn the lessons. Hopefully you learn the lessons, but you're going to be here until you learn the lessons.
And then you feel, when you graduate, what does graduation mean?
For me, a graduation is an understanding that me and you ultimately are the same. And that's what I mean by I don't want to get caught up in my ego. Because what the ego does is the ego tells me that you and I are different. Look at this world. Look at this. Like, I don't want to be on a side of things. I want to be a part of the solution. And I think that being a part of the solution comes from doing the work, each of us within ourselves, to come to that point to where what I just said isn't a statement, it's an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, you live by it.
And it's your experience. You know, I'm working on that. I'm not trying to sit here and tell you that, like, but that's why I say I am watchful. I'm watchful of my ego, because that's going to be the thing. And I know it, that could mess me up.
What made you aware of that for your own journey? Like, what made you aware of that?
Again, dude, I'm very fortunate. I found my teacher, dude. I found my guru. I found my path, dude. And so I have my path that I study. And when you're going through an experience that is one like this, where there's an infinite variety of options you could choose.
Sure.
Especially if you have money. You could do whatever you want. It's good if you have someone who's done it before you that can tell you the pitfalls, and that you also trust has done it in such a way to where they were successful. And I found that person for me, and I have that trust in that person from everything that I've learned and that I've experienced thus far, to where for me, when you talk about something like faith, I have faith in that. And so that gives me a path that I've chosen to walk that is proving true to keeping me on course.
That's great. And so, I guess in closing, if you had to give advice to somebody that says, hey, I want to consider opening a coffee shop, or
Sure.
I want to consider opening, a small restaurant, or whatever it may be in the food, coffee space,
Sure.
right? What are 1 or 2 or 3 pieces of advice that you would give them? I know you've already shared a bunch, so anything
Sure.
different than what you shared?
Yeah, I'll say one thing, and this is probably the one thing that I'll say. I would say a much more important question than what do I want to do, or what do I want to create, or what business do I want to get into. I would say the question to ask before any of those questions is, what do I want to become? And think about that. Because everything that's going to be generated around you is going to come out of the qualities that you manifest inside of yourself. Your entire environment you're going to create out of the kind of person and qualities that you exhibit. And so if you haven't considered those qualities within yourself, and you haven't tended to that part, start there. Because no matter what you do, if you don't have that situated, you're going to create something that's going to be not the best that you could do.
That makes sense. Yeah, it could be profitable, it could make money, it could be good, but it won't be a reflection of what your best
It won't
is.
be your best.
Yeah. Powerful. Thanks for being on today, brother.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
Hey man, likewise, I enjoyed it.
Yes. So we're gonna go have what should we order when we go?
Oh man, so I think the best sandwich on the menu is the Firebird. If you can do a little spice,
I love spice.
I'll do the Firebird. I think that's the best. The Queen Beak is the most popular sandwich, but I think the Firebird's the best sandwich.
I love it. Awesome. Thanks for being on today,
Absolutely.
Brian.
100%.
Hope you guys enjoyed it, and you gotta go try the restaurant now. Go have the Firebird.
Please, come on.
Take care, guys. We'll see you on the next episode.
Right.
Bye bye.